Ang pahayag ni former judge ng ICC na si Judge Raul Pangalanan.
Handa na ba kayo dito kay Filipino lawyer and former judge sa International Criminal Court? Judge Raul Pangalangan is in the house. Wow, thank you so much finally.
Pleasure. It's a pleasure to be here.
There's been so much talk about the flood control projects, and up to now, people are still obsessed. It's all they talk about. Are you frustrated that they seem to be not really shelving, but have temporarily gotten amnesia about all the developments on the ICC case on Rodrigo Duterte in The Hague?
Well, I sure hope people don't forget that there are other battles going on elsewhere. But I'm also happy that people are, aware of what's happening in terms of the corruption in the flood control project.
Are you thinking like a lawyer on the case of the former president, Rodrigo Duterte, or do you have your own personal feelings and biases?
Well, of course, I do have my own personal feelings, but for the purpose of this interview, I'll have to be a very proper former judge of the
Right,
ICC.
and I haven't asked him, for the record, I haven't asked him what his personal feelings are. Anyway, nagkaroon po ng isang malaking desisyon mula sa The Hague, kamakailan. At ang balita ko nga, medyo iniinda ni Judge Pangalangan dahil bakit hindi nabibigyan ng sapat na pansin daw itong desisyon na ito na napakahalaga. Bakit mahalaga at ano ba itong desisyon na ito mula sa The Hague na kailangan alam nating lahat? Okay.
This is the decision on jurisdiction of the court. So the position of the defense of the Duterte's counsel is that the court has no jurisdiction over the case, and therefore the case should be dismissed because the Philippines has withdrawn from the Rome Statute, and that therefore the court has lost jurisdiction over the case of former President Duterte. Now, I consider this very important, Corina, because had it been granted by the court, and had the court agreed with the defense that there is no jurisdiction, then the case is all over.
And it sets a precedent.
Well, it sets a precedent for future cases.
For future cases.
But the important thing, especially for life in the Philippines, is that if the court said, yes, there is no, we have lost jurisdiction, therefore the case is dismissed, and by today, Duterte will be home in the Philippines already. Right. And you can imagine the political, the sense of outrage of his followers that their idol was unfairly treated. The moral indignation, all the political theatrics that will follow, and of course, as you can imagine in Philippine politics, how some groups might capitalize on the dismissal of the case for their own political agenda.
Some people might interpret that as meaning that you don't have that much faith in the judicial system in the Philippines. Well, a lot of people don't. They don't have that much faith, but don't you also?
That is correct. Well, I'll have to go by exactly what the court said. The court says that in the jargon of the ICC, it's called the principle of complementarity. That the ICC is a court of last resort. It kicks in only if of the originating jurisdiction, in this case the Philippines, has shown itself to be, and the jargon is, unwilling or unable genuinely to prosecute. So, and the usual defense of the Duterte camp is that this is an indictment of the entire Philippine legal system because our judicial system exists. It continues to function. The courts are still open. But as I love to emphasize, there are two tests. The test, one test that they are responding to is that the courts are completely have collapsed. That is unable to prosecute. But the other test is unwilling to prosecute. So for me, if the argument is that our courts are perfectly functioning, then how come out of the more than 6,000 officially recorded victims, very few cases have moved forward? And that was the logic of the court in saying that the principle of complementarity
So
been
is it necessarily unpatriotic to be subscribing to the like the indictment of the Philippine justice system?
Short answer, no, it is not unpatriotic. And I'm so glad you used that word, Corina, because, you know, this element of patriotism has been really, how should I say this, manipulated in this discourse. So it appears that to side with the ICC is to join the condemnation of the Philippine judicial system. Well, to the extent that it hasn't moved, of course, it has to be condemned and called out for that. And there's nothing unpatriotic about, you know, stating the truth. But at the same time, I have seen videos of President Duterte when he was still an incumbent president saying that, you know, he won't be judged by this court of white men. And so by that kind of rhetoric plays upon the anti-colonial, you know, line.
Biases.
Like, I saw a video where he says that my loyalty is to the Filipino people and the Filipino alone. And therefore I will answer to a Philippine court. I will not answer to the ICC. In fact, I recall Rappler at that time, in reply, just published a picture of the court. I mean, I was part of the court then. There were other non-white people, certainly non-white men, in the court. The president of the court was from Nigeria. The prosecutor was from the Gambia. This nationalist card has been
overplayed.
Played to the hilt.
Or misplayed.
Yes, indeed.
Right. So, okay. But don't you think there would, or there might be some complication because we are now disengaged as members of the ICC. So what about cooperation? What about the current government saying that they're not going to cooperate for evidence and for corroborations? Is that going to be a complication?
It is, but it was fully addressed by the court in the decision last week. And that is why I said that it was like the biggest victory for the prosecution so far. That the court affirmed its jurisdiction. The court went into all the details of the argument. The treaty, the Rome Statute, is a treaty that was signed by the Philippines. We withdrew from the statute as a state party. You know, in accordance with the rules, but also the terms of withdrawal provide that we cannot use that clause to frustrate the jurisdiction of the court. So the rule is that the court retains jurisdiction over all matters already under consideration at the time of the withdrawal.
Right, and also that the crimes in question
were committed at that time.
Were committed at the time that we were still members.
Yes.
So that's clear.
Yes.
That was made clear by that decision.
That is correct. And then if you turn to the charges proposed by the prosecution, they cover killings committed when Duterte was mayor, and then killings of, they call high-value targets when he was president, and then the barangay clearing operations when he was president.
Okay.
So those crimes were all committed while the Philippines was a member of the Rome Statute.
Okay, so yun po yung isang importanteng naging desisyon mula sa The Hague, jurisdiction. So that is now settled. And the other one, let's talk about the merits of the case a little later.
Yes.
But what was the second important decision?
Okay, about a week before that, the court also denied the motion of the defense for interim release. Again, just imagine the situation if he had been granted interim release, and I don't know where they proposed for him to spend that.
I think they were still scouting around for friendly and welcoming nations.
That is correct. And when the court rejected that motion, what is significant is that the court relied upon the very statements of the Duterte camp itself. So the test for under the Rome Statute for interim release is that the accused, there must be no risk of flight, of escaping. And what the court did was just to quote all the statements from Duterte's family, saying that they will help him break from the jail at The Hague.
They actually said things like that.
Yes, the
Okay.
direct quotes, and I looked at the citations of the court. These were from transcripts, apparently translated. I imagine they were made either in Filipino or in
And also
mix.
broadcast on television.
That is correct. So the strongest ammunition for the court were provided by the
family.
By the family.
So they got their father in trouble. I mean, they got their own.
Yes, early on, I think the Duterte's lawyers already made an appeal to his followers, and I suppose that will include the family, to desist from all these statements. But anyway,
well, it's too late for that.
yeah,
Right.
that's right. So the request for interim
Could it be
release
appealed?
Okay, that's a good question. Jurisdiction definitely can be appealed as a matter of right. The difference between the ICC and Philippine courts is that there's a list of motions which can be made as a matter of right. The others can be made only with leave of court. Magpapaalam ka sa judge. Judge, pwede ko ba i-appeal yung decision mo? And the judges can simply deny.
Can deny it.
So I'll have to check that. If that's most probably it's not. It's
not going to be appealable.
yeah. Not appealable as a matter of right. They'll have to ask for leave of court. Kasi these are like small interlocutory orders. Yeah.
It's
Appeal
like
jurisdiction is a major issue. That's
Right.
why it is appealable as a matter of right, and it is already being appealed. And
So where does double jeopardy apply?
double jeopardy is if there's called to be responsible for an act twice. In this case, jeopardy has set once, and that's the same jeopardy that's being pursued to the end.
Right.
So he's not being prosecuted.
So it's not like they can take back what they said, that they would try to break loose their father from jail. They can't take it back or show remorse or
that's
for
a
an
matter
appeal.
as a matter of fact, as a question of fact, that is already part of the record.
I see.
Hindi
na pwedeng.
But I think when you spoke of jeopardy, double jeopardy, maybe you had in mind the question of appeal being raised many times. Indeed, it has been raised many times. And under the rules of the court, it can be raised only once by one party. So it was raised by the Republic of the Philippines early on. A jurisdiction was affirmed at that stage. But you see, every accused is entitled to his day in court. And so now that we have a case against a specific person, namely Rodrigo Duterte, he is entitled to raise the jurisdiction again, which is what he did. And then he will appeal. He is now appealing it before the appeals chamber. And theoretically, every other person who will be charged in the future should be able to raise it. Although I imagine at some stage, if jurisdiction is affirmed at every stage, they would know that it's a useless battle.
So are we anywhere near a decision about his fitness to appear in court?
That's a good question.
Because that seems to be the roadblock now.
In fact, that is the last remaining issue. So jurisdiction was questioned, the court affirmed. They asked for interim release, the court rejected it. And now they are saying that he's not, mentally fit to stand trial. So you're correct. That is one remaining issue. The stage where it is now is this: the court has appointed 3 experts to evaluate him: one psychiatrist, one psychologist, and one who specializes in geriatric something. And that is, we're still awaiting the results of that. And these are independent court-appointed experts. Because, usually counsel will present his own experts, and then the court will say, well, they are your experts. So the court rejected those evaluations. So we now await the evaluation of the 3. Now, as a legal matter, it's an open question how the court will treat this, because normally fitness of the accused is a matter of affirmative defense during the trial. Meaning, when he committed those crimes, he was like not himself. But they're invoking it in a slightly different angle this time, and also in a different stage. It's not whether he knew that what he was doing was wrong. It is his capacity to follow the trial and his capacity to participate in his own defense. So it is not actually what we call an enumerated ground for as a requirement for him to stand a trial. They are sort of extrapolating it from a more fundamental guarantee that he is entitled to participate in his own trial.
Well,
so,
he has to be speaking with his lawyer, with his defense lawyer.
That is correct. In fact, I will hope that, again, they just have to play his videos when he was being arrested in NAIA, and him discussing the issues like, on what charge am I being arrested, etc., etc. That is not the statement of someone who can't follow his trial. So, but for me, again, these are where it stands is the court awaits the report of the three experts, the three appointed experts. The next question is what the court will do with the findings of those experts.
So these three experts are like medical practitioners?
Well, for the psychiatrists, of course, I think they have
an evaluation.
Yeah. Though they have their own licensing requirements. I don't know about the psychologists and the two psychologists, but for sure they are experts. I mean, the court has its own roster of independent.
Well, if you're
experts.
watching a movie or a TV series wherein fitness to stand trial is a often used term.
Yeah.
Well, it takes minutes for a decision to be made, right? So what is the realistic time frame for this?
The court gave the experts, I think, 5 weeks.
Oh,
so 5 weeks from 2
weeks.
weeks ago, so we have to wait another 3 weeks, and then I guess they will evaluate the report soon after. I have actually sat in cases where we received expert testimony, and they're quite educational for lawyers. In fact, I recall I had to sort through all the medical terms and dissociative disorders, stuff like that. So it's a very interesting
and
process.
if you're found unfit to stand trial, what happens?
In fact, that's what I meant.
You're released back to the Philippines?
No, in fact, that's the thing. It is not settled. There's no settled rule on that. It's a matter of speculation. What they requested earlier was a permanent stay in the proceedings, and that was rejected by the court. A permanent stay means basically a forever kind of...
Abandonment of...
that he can't be tried. And then their next... I imagine if the court grants a permanent stay, their next motion is, okay, so do you mean he stays in jail the whole time? It defeats the whole purpose.
So there is nothing in history as a president?
No, because the last time some high-level politicians were allowed to be free during the trial, these two politicians in Kenya made it clear that they will appear before the court voluntarily. So what the court issued was not a warrant of arrest, but a mere summons. And the court eventually dropped the charge against the fellow who would eventually become president, and the fellow who was his vice presidential candidate, now the incumbent president, stood trial but was allowed to be free during the trial and would appear only during periodic moments during the trial, the reading of the charges. In the Philippines, we call it the arraignment, a few other such moments. But the fundamental principle is that these two guys assured the court, we will be there.
And they were believed?
They were believed.
They were credible?
Yes, and to their credit, they actually showed up.
Right.
In other words, they took the risk that upon landing in The Hague, they will be arrested. So they
And
were not
throughout the
arrested.
duration of the trial, they were just in The Hague?
No. They went back.
They
to
would
their
go
home.
back and
yes,
forth.
because they were incumbents.
Right. Okay.
Incumbent president and vice president.
And
So
they were exonerated? They were found not guilty?
Okay. The court struggled with that. it was this, in the Philippines, we will call it dismissal on a demurrer to the evidence, meaning that the prosecution did not have enough evidence by the end of their turn, and the court says you won't proceed with the rest of the trial. So it was, the jargon is a no case to answer, a dismissal of the case. And the court emphatically saying, this is not an acquittal, because the reason we can't proceed is that all the witnesses have basically disappeared.
Where did they go? Either they backed out or they were talked to. Intimidated.
Intimidated or basically eliminated along the way. And that, in fact, is one scenario which has worked against the plea for interim release of Duterte. Because the first ground is a risk of flight, and the second is the risk of continued intimidation of the witnesses. Because then, of course, we have to protect the witnesses, but of course, for the court, the concern is the integrity of the judicial proceedings. Otherwise, the search for the truth will be impeded and obstructed by simply intimidating and scaring off all the witnesses.
So going back to fitness to stand trial, it's not like he was fit when he came in, and during his stay there, he was mistreated, because these are some of the claims of some people. Binartulina, and put in the dark or something like that. So it's not like he regressed while he was there.
Well, this Bartolina scenario, a solo, solitary confinement. I'm absolutely sure it does not happen. It cannot happen. I mean, as a judge, I was actually officially given a tour of the jail. I have seen the insides of the of the detention cells. They are treated by the highest standards of treatment. There's a whole science to the treatment of prisoners. The highest standards, even the diet will adjust to. So if the staple for some of the prisoners for a long time was couscous, so there will be couscous.
They're not. You mean the diet will not be according to the traditions or the culture of the.
It will be adjusted to the culture of the prisoners. So I'm pretty sure by now they have a regular supply of rice and adobo.
Adobo. Okay.
And also to follow our own eating patterns. Like in Europe, they won't typically have a hot breakfast.
Right.
It could be,
or maybe merienda.
Yeah. Oh, even the concept of a merienda, I don't think they have.
Do you think do you think it works against the ICC that we don't see the former president, like what state he's in, if he had lost weight, or if he's still alive?
Yeah. Well, the practice, of course, is that they are prisoners, and therefore, being covered by TV is not part of the process. I mean. The duty is to treat them fairly and decently in jail, and they're given that. They are even given, if they want to take up yoga or gym lessons.
Wellness.
Yes, they have a gym. They play basketball. If they want to, they have fresh air. They're quite particular about fresh air and sunshine is but the location of the jail is really good. It's right beside a national park. And beside the dunes, they call it the dunes, which are in front of the beach.
Right.
So that's the location of the of the jails.
So, given the complaints of the residents living in this sort of exclusive subdivision where the prison is, that's quite rare. Okay, but there have been complaints about the behavior and the hygiene of the Filipinos.
I have come across some online feedback, some responses. Some were even interviews by our own Philippine networks. In fact, I recall about a resident saying that the flowers in his garden were like
trampled upon.
Yeah. So I guess it must be quite traumatic for the.
So it's not like a memorandum can be issued so that people behave.
I understand that they are now given like hours within which, like 10 to 12 in the morning.
Oh, okay.
Outside of that. But I don't know if there are regulations about using megaphones and sound systems, about the stage for,
for performances.
Yeah, indeed.
Yes.
Yeah. But that is a quiet. The neighborhoods in the Hague, they don't have gated communities.
And you've never seen this happen before?
Well, no, because I don't. It's very close to the court, but I don't go that far from the court. I can go biking in the area, but I have not seen rallies.
Okay.
Rallies there.
So, how long were you a
I was
judge?
there for 6 years.
For 6 years?
Yeah, I lived there.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay, so what does it take for a big personality, such as heads of state, to be convicted? Which leads us to the question, is there enough to convict somebody like Rodrigo Duterte?
Well, okay. We've seen the charges proposed by the prosecution. Those charges are supposed to be confirmed, still to be confirmed by this chamber, the pretrial chamber. And after the chamber hears confirms the charges, it will be passed on to a new chamber. They will form a new set of judges for the actual trial. Now,
Between the reading of the charges and the actual trial, how long is that going to be?
Well, they will need at least about 3 to 4 months to constitute a new team,
okay.
because they will have to organize.
Put it together.
Yes, we are organized into trial chambers of 3 people each, and then the chamber will have elect its own president, its own. We call it the single judge for interlocutory rulings. Where the court is big on interpreters. Because the court values that the witness must be able to speak in his or her own language. And so I understand the court already has Cebuano speaking interpreters. I think Ilocano speaking also. So that also indicates where they will find the.
And they're foreigners, or are they Filipino?
Oh, they're recruited from the Philippines.
From the Philippines.
Yes.
Okay.
In fact, in the cases from Africa in which I sat, they will recruit it from them from the village, because the village would have its own dialect, and the court is quite particular about that.
Okay.
And then it's translated into the official languages, English and French, in the booths of the interpreter.
Right.
So, in the proceedings of the court, the interpreters are very
important.
Yeah. In fact, if you have to go in overtime for the trial, and counsel asks for additional time, before the judges make a ruling, we look at the booth of the interpreters. So because it's so clear that we have to wait for them to signal that they are willing to stay on, to go in overtime.
Okay. The president today was quoted as having said, do you want it done quick or do you want it done right? So I guess we'll just have to wait.
I think that's a good line.
Yeah. People are impatient these days.
Yeah.
But anyway, but in your stint also as a judge, there were exonerations. There were people found not guilty.
In fact, the biggest exoneration was, I mentioned already the first 2 guys who were,
where the witnesses vanished.
Yes. So the cases were dismissed on a no case to answer basis. But there was one who was convicted on trial and acquitted
on appeal.
On appeal, on pure questions of law. He was a president. He ran for vice president. In his country, he lost. He fostered some post-election violence to overturn it, and he was eventually arrested. But the acquittal was on technical legal issues, not on the evidence. It is the match between the evidence presented and the formulation of the charges. And the court said, there was no fit between the two. So it was quite a difficult point for the court, because of course the victims are expecting justice, and they're of course the court also grants reparation for the victims, and in this case the victims realized that belatedly that if the accused is acquitted, even if they showed they have actually suffered, they will not get anything. And by the way, that is one case where the court had already seized the wealth of the accused. They seized his private jet, for instance. So, in other words, the accused was actually in a position to pay reparation for his victims. But, he was acquitted on appeal.
So in the case of the former President Duterte, would it be an uphill climb that this crime against humanity is singular? Is it a singular charge for chain of command?
First of all, you're correct. It is the single charge of murder as a crime against humanity, which again contrasts to the other cases that I handled where there's multiple charges against the accused. Dito, isa lang eh. So that should, for me, that
and
should
the
make it easier.
indirect.
Okay.
Did he actually, pull the trigger or?
The term of the court is indirect co-perpetrator.
Yes.
He did pull the trigger. Although there are videos where he says he actually...
Yes, there are videos that he says.
Once or twice. Which should be enough, by the way, to convict him. But yes, it is indirect. And early on, people were speculating, will the court... the jargon here is the mode of attribution. So it's not the crime itself, the actus reus, the killing, but how he is linked to the killing. People thought they will use command responsibility. But no, the court used another mode, which is indirect co-perpetrator. And, basically aiding and abetting. And for that, I imagine they will use his own statements.
His own statements. I was
Yes.
getting to that. So in the same way that a decision was come up with from statements on TV by the daughter.
Yeah.
So the statements of Rodrigo Duterte admitting to these crimes
Yes.
can also be
Well, they're there already. I'd be interested how the court will entertain that and, how the prosecution will introduce it into the record. I can imagine that hearing will be very interesting because, he also has a right not to appear, just like in the Philippines. And part of the right against self-incrimination. So, but I'll be interested how they will do
Really?
it because it's already part of the public knowledge. So will they use judicial notice? But for such heavy evidence, I will hope that they will rely on much more than just.
What is the
judicial
heaviest
notice.
evidence?
Yeah. Oh, for me, it's his own statements.
The statements. Okay.
Yeah, so,
it's not like he can invoke like temporary insanity while he was making those statements, right? Or that it was
for
satire.
that defense to prosper, he would have to invoke insanity too often in the past during his 6 years in office, because and even beyond his latest appearance before the House committee, for instance. I don't think that defense is available.
Okay. So have you been consulted by the prosecution?
Oh, no, I have nothing to do with the court. And, Corina, that too, in the Philippines, some retired judges are still able to appear before their former courts. In the ICC, it's not. It's not allowed.
Okay.
It's almost an ethical...
But even on consultation basis, the prosecution might get you're not ethically... I mean, it's not ethical for them to be consulting you, or you giving consultation.
I imagine not for a specific case, but maybe for some larger policy issues.
Right.
Revisions of the rules. But for a specific case, especially not the case for my own country.
So, are you planning to make an appearance there, or just to visit, or just to be a spectator?
Oh, I have visited. I have visited the court since. Each time I visit The Hague, I try to meet up with old friends.
So definitely historic for the Philippines, right?
Oh, it is. It is historic for the Philippines. Historic also for the court. As I've said, this is a court where, for a long time, all the cases came from just one continent, from Africa, and now the court has two cases from Asia, the Philippines and Myanmar. So that is significant. It has a case in Ukraine. It has a case in Israel. So I think in terms of the place of the court in history, I'm so glad that the court, has overcome that period when it was accused of, just running after people from Africa.
Right.
So now it's all over, genuinely all over the. all
Okay,
over the
so
world.
you're positive that justice will prevail here.
Well, I am positive that the court will move forward, as it is expected to, on the basis of its own rules and of the facts presented by the parties. The question of jurisdiction will still be raised before the appeals chamber all over again. The last time around, the vote was 3 versus 2. It's a five-member appeals chamber. But again, Corina, what is significant is that in the decision last week, the trial chamber actually responded to the 2 dissenting judges in the appeals chamber the last time around. So nasagot na yung point na yon. And one of those dissenting judges has also retired from the court already. So it's just one vote. One vote left.
So should the Philippines again be members of the ICC, you think? What is your recommendation?
For me, in the long term and in the future, of course, it is good for the Philippines. I supported the signing of the Philippines of the Rome Statute the first time around, and I will support a return by the Philippines today.
Lucky for this administration then.
Yeah.
Because we're not members right now, right?
Well, in fact, it has redounded to the benefit of the administration that at the time of the arrest, they were not a part of the Rome Statute, because some obligations there are binding only on actual members. And
Right.
so it redounded to their benefit, providentially. for them.
And even after or post administration.
Indeed, yes.
And that being said, we're going to shut up now.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure. My pleasure
Judge
to be here. You're most
Pangalangan,
welcome.
how enlightening. Thank you. We should have you again when, things move
I love
forward.
it, yes.